Welcome to Kanerika's podcast, The Digital Shift.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
I am ready to just get straight into the engine room today because we're dissecting a problem that, keeps CIOs up at night, even if they hate admitting it in public.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that it looks like a simple software purchase on a spreadsheet.
Right. Just a line item.
Exactly. But underneath, it's basically a proxy war for how your entire company makes decisions.
It really is. We are talking about the absolute high stakes of business intelligence, or BI, in 2026. I was digging through the content to prep for this deep dive, and the numbers are just screaming at you.
They really are.
87%. 87% of organizations now cite BI as a top 3 priority for digital transformation. I mean, it's not just a nice to have anymore. It is the backbone of the enterprise.
Yeah, that stat is huge. And the implication there is massive for anyone listening. Because here is the kicker. If you choose the wrong platform, it's not just an annoyance. It's not like you just reinstall some software next month and move on.
Right, you're stuck.
You are.
Ah.
It creates years of what we call technical debt. That is the silent killer in IT.
Technical debt, governance headaches, wasted money.
If you pick a tool that doesn't fit your organization's DNA, you aren't just buying software. You are buying future arguments.
Arguments in board meetings about whose numbers are right.
Precisely. You are buying a data team that just burns out trying to fix broken pipelines every weekend.
That is a terrifying thought for any executive. So, to help you, our listeners, avoid that exact fate, we are staging a heavyweight matchup today. We're going to keep this impactful and hit all the key areas without getting completely lost in the weeds.
Sounds like a plan.
In the red corner, we have the Google Cloud Native challenger, Looker. And in the blue corner, the absolute giant of the Microsoft ecosystem, Power BI.
It's a classic rivalry.
Right.
It really is. But I want to frame this carefully right from the jump. This isn't just feature A versus feature B.
Right, it's bigger than that.
Much bigger.
Mm.
This is a battle of philosophies. It is a strategic choice between centralized truth on one hand and democratized speed on the other.
Centralized truth versus democratized speed. I absolutely love that framing. Let's start with Looker then. What is their core philosophy?
So Looker is built entirely on the idea of governance first.
Okay.
If you sit down and talk to a Looker architect, they won't start by showing you a pretty chart. They are going to talk about something called LookML.
LookML, which is their secret sauce. Right?
Exactly. It's a modeling layer, a coding layer, really,
Yeah.
where your data teams define metrics once and only once.
So it's code-based. That sounds a bit intimidating for the average business user, doesn't it?
Well, for the average user, they don't actually see the code.
Oh, I see.
But for the organization as a whole, it acts as a massive safety net. Think about a metric like gross margin. In most companies, if you ask sales, marketing, and finance what gross margin is for Q1, you might get 3 entirely different numbers.
Oh, I have been in those meetings. Half the time is spent arguing about whose spreadsheet is correct rather than, what to actually do about the numbers. It is pure chaos.
It's a massive waste of time. Looker solves that completely. You define gross margin in LookML once, then everyone, whether they are in marketing, finance, or operations, pulls from that exact same single definition.
Got it. So it creates a strict single source of truth.
Yes. If you change the definition in the code, it updates for everyone instantly across the entire enterprise.
So it is essentially a guardrail. You literally can't break the logic because the logic is locked down by the engineering team.
Correct. So you can see why it's ideal for data mature organizations. If you have an engineering team that wants strict consistency and you're dealing with massive scale, Looker's philosophy is incredibly appealing.
You aren't going to have a marketing intern whipping up a complex new data model on their lunch break.
No, you won't. But you will know your numbers are right every single time.
Okay, so that is the control side of the equation. Now let's swing over to Power BI. You called this democratized speed.
Power BI takes the absolute opposite approach. It was born from the world of Microsoft Excel. Its philosophy is, quite simply, insights for everyone.
It's built for the self-service user.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which explains why it feels so familiar to so many people. If you know how to use a pivot table, you can probably figure out Power BI pretty quickly.
It really leans into that drag and drop interface.
It does. You don't need to wait for IT to build you a report. If you're a business analyst and you suddenly need to know sales figures by region for the last Tuesday of the month, you could just build it yourself.
Using DAX, right?
Exactly, DAX, or data analysis expressions. It's a formula language that is very similar to Excel formulas.
That sounds incredible for speed. I mean, nobody wants to submit a ticket to IT and wait 3 weeks just to get a pie chart. We all want the answer right now.
The speed to insight is incredible. It totally empowers the business side. But, and here's the big but, that freedom comes with a significant trade-off.
There's always a catch.
Always. If you are not careful, that democratization leads to what we call data swamps.
Data swamps? That does not sound pleasant.
It's really not. It's the exact opposite of Looker's single truth. Because anyone can build a data set. You end up with Bob in accounting having one version of the truth and Sari in sales having another.
And they both walk into the boardroom with different charts.
They're both presenting to the CEO, the numbers don't match, and nobody knows why. Without strict governance, you get speed, but you might be moving very fast in the wrong direction.
So Looker locks it down to ensure accuracy, while Power BI opens it up to ensure speed. That is a really fundamental difference in how a company chooses to operate.
It forces a choice. Looker uses technology to force behavior. Power BI relies on people to behave.
That's a great way to put it. And that philosophy naturally extends to what is happening under the hood, deep in the architecture. This is where we get into the in-database versus in-memory debate.
Right. And this is crucial for performance.
Let's get technical for a second, but let's keep it accessible. What is the fundamental difference here?
Think of it this way. Power BI typically uses an in-memory processing engine. It's called VertiPack. What it does is it takes your data, compresses it highly, and loads it into the random access memory, the RAM of the machine.
So it's holding the data right there, immediately ready to go.
Exactly. Because it is in memory, it is blazing fast. We are talking sub-second response times. You click a filter, and the chart snaps to the new view instantly.
It feels incredibly responsive to the user.
But computers only have so much RAM. Even enterprise servers have physical limits.
And there's a wall you hit.
That's the wall. It is fantastic for speed, but unless you pay for very expensive premium capacities, you hit a hard ceiling on dataset size. You can't just load the entire transactional history of a global enterprise into memory easily.
It's like a sports car. Fast, agile, really fun to drive, but you cannot fit a freight train's worth of cargo in the trunk.
I like that analogy. So if Power BI is the sports car with a strict trunk limit, Looker handles the heavy cargo completely differently.
How so?
Looker uses in-database processing. It actually doesn't store the data itself at all.
Interesting.
When you run a report in Looker, it translates your question into a SQL query and pushes it down to your database, usually a cloud warehouse like Google BigQuery or Snowflake.
So it is using the muscle of the cloud warehouse to do the heavy lifting.
Precisely. That means it scales endlessly. You can run complex queries on petabytes of data, literally billions of rows, and Looker doesn't break a sweat because BigQuery is the one actually doing the work.
So if Power BI is the sports car, Looker is the control center for the freight train.
That is very fair. And this architectural difference impacts connectivity too. Power BI is essentially a Swiss Army knife.
In terms of what it can connect to.
Yeah, it has over 150 connectors out of the box. It can talk to Excel files, social media feeds, web APIs, Salesforce, loose files on a desktop, practically anything. It is designed to be a vacuum cleaner for data.
Just pull it all in.
Exactly. Whereas Looker is a specialist. It connects almost exclusively to SQL databases, about 60 dialects or so.
So it's not grabbing random CSV files.
No, it's not really meant to just grab a CSV file from someone's laptop and visualize it. It wants structured warehouse data. It's built for the modern cloud data stack.
You know, hearing us lay out this comparison really highlights something important. Here at Kanerika, we see this exact struggle all the time with our clients.
We do, every week.
They come to us at Kanerika asking which tool is better. But they are often just looking at the surface features. They aren't looking at the deep architectural fit or the long-term implications.
That is so true. At Kanerika, our approach isn't just about picking a tool off a shelf and handing over a license key. It is about the complete end-to-end solution.
Right, because if you don't fix the foundation, the tool won't save you.
Exactly. We handle everything from the initial data governance and integration all the way to deploying advanced AI agents and generative AI. Because if the pipes underneath are leaking, it doesn't matter how shiny the faucet is.
And that is a crucial distinction for our listeners. Whether a client ultimately chooses Looker or Power BI, our goal at Kanerika is to turn that raw data into a strategic advantage.
Moving beyond just reporting.
Right, because reporting is really just looking backward. We want to move companies toward predictive insights.
We help them unlock actionable intelligence, It honestly doesn't matter if you have the best tool in the world. If your data pipeline is broken or your governance is non-existent, you are just visualizing bad data faster.
Well said. We at Kanerika ensure the foundation is solid so that whether you are using the sports car or the control center, you are getting results you can actually
That
trust.
trust is everything.
Speaking of results and the people actually driving these tools, let's talk about the user experience. We touched on this slightly, but let's go deeper. The Excel factor. Why is the Microsoft ecosystem such a massive gravity well for businesses?
This is undoubtedly Power BI's superpower. The user interface just feels like home for anyone who knows Microsoft Office.
It lowers the barrier to entry significantly.
It does. It is about looking good and ease of use. It creates a path of least resistance for adoption across a company.
And I have seen some Power BI dashboards that genuinely look like works of art. They give you pixel-perfect control over 50 chart types out of the box. It really leans heavily into the storytelling aspect of data.
It certainly does, and the ecosystem integration is practically unbeatable. If your company already runs on Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, and Azure, Power BI just fits like a glove.
You can just drop it right into the workflow.
Yeah, you can embed a live, interactive report right into a Teams chat. 97% of Fortune 500 companies use Microsoft 365, so that friction is almost zero.
You don't have to convince an executive to log into some separate, unfamiliar portal.
Right, the data is just there, right in the middle of the conversation they were already having.
That is incredibly hard to compete with. But Looker does have a specific niche where it shines in user experience too, doesn't it?
It does, but in a very different way. Looker's UI is much more functional. It prioritizes clarity and consistency over flashiness. But its real, undeniable strength is in embedded analytics.
This is for when you want to show data to your customers, right? Not just your internal employees.
Yes, let's say you are a SaaS company, and you want to show your users a dashboard of their own usage inside your application.
Looker is built for that.
It is incredible for that. It integrates seamlessly into other products using modern web standards. It is great for companies building customer-facing data apps, where they want the data to look and feel like a native part of their own software.
Like a true white label experience.
Exactly. And obviously, if you are already heavily invested in Google Cloud, Looker is just the seamless default choice.
All right, so we've covered philosophy, we've covered architecture, and the user experience. Now we have to talk about the bottom line. The CFO is listening to this, and they want to know what this is going to cost.
This is where the economics get really interesting because the pricing models are diametrically opposed. Let's start with Power BI. It has what I call the coffee shop price.
The coffee shop price, I like that.
It starts at about $10 per user per month for the Pro license.
$10. I mean, you can put that on a corporate credit card and nobody blinks.
It is incredibly cheap to start. For a small team, it is an absolute no-brainer. But there's a catch.
As there always is with software.
As you scale, the costs grow, sometimes quite rapidly. If you need premium capacity, which gives you that dedicated performance and the larger model sizes we talked about, or if you need dedicated servers, the price jumps significantly.
So it's a very low barrier to entry, but the costs rise alongside your success and adoption. What about Looker's pricing model?
Looker has the enterprise price tag right from day one. You are usually looking at platform fees that often start around $3,000 to $5,000 a month minimum, and that is just for the platform itself.
Ouch. That is a pretty steep entry fee for a startup or a mid-market company.
It is a serious commitment. Plus, you have to remember, you also pay for the underlying data warehouse compute costs. So every time someone runs a big query, you are paying Google BigQuery or Snowflake for that processing time.
So if I'm a technology leader listening to this, how do I build a decision framework around those costs?
Here is a simple baseline framework. If you are a small team, let's say under 50 users, Power BI is almost always the financial winner. Looker is just too heavy of an initial investment for a team that size.
Makes total sense. But what happens when we look at large enterprises?
The economics completely shift. Looker can become highly competitive at massive scale because the platform fee is largely fixed. You aren't necessarily paying a linear tax for every single new set of eyes you add to the system, depending on your contract.
So if you have 10,000 users who just need to view reports securely, Looker might actually surprise you financially.
Exactly. It really is about matching the tool to your specific stage of growth and your deployment scale.
Now, I want to make this tangible for our listeners. We talk a lot about the digital shift and transformation as concepts, but what does that actually look like on the ground? You and I have seen this firsthand with the work we do at Kanerika.
Absolutely. The theory is great, but the application is what matters. Let's talk about Northgate. They are a major supply chain services and packaging solutions provider, real heavy industry, high volume operations.
Right, I remember this case clearly. Their challenge was classic: fragmented data everywhere. They had critical information spread across multiple legacy systems. Their leaders simply couldn't see the full picture of what was happening in logistics or order fulfillment.
They were essentially flying blind in key areas.
They were. So we at Kanerika stepped in, and the first thing we did was not just install a visualization tool, we unified their data sources.
Right, we built a cohesive data layer first.
Exactly, and then we implemented Power BI as the reporting interface on top of that clean data. And this wasn't just about making pretty charts for the boardroom.
Not at all. We created real-time dashboards for their logistics and order fulfillment teams on the floor.
The impact was incredibly tangible. They saw higher productivity simply because people weren't wasting hours chasing data down. They had better cost control because they could finally see exactly where the money was leaking in the supply chain.
And fewer delays in shipping. That is real return on investment.
It is. It transforms BI from just a dashboard into a tool that says, hey, we are losing a 5% margin on this specific route. Let's go fix it today.
And we have done similar transformative work for a major third-party logistics provider where the sheer volume of data was the main bottleneck.
That was a really interesting one. Logistics generates massive data sets daily.
Huge. We utilized Microsoft Fabric for them. This client had legacy systems that were just too slow to handle the volume they were generating.
They're timing out, right?
Yeah, timing out constantly. By moving them to Fabric, which is designed to handle that heavy-duty analytics load, we drastically shortened the time it took to generate insights. Again, it is about moving from raw data to a business decision as fast as possible.
And that really is the Kanerika difference right there. We don't just install the software. We solve the actual business problem. We architect the whole solution.
Precisely. We solve for the outcome, not just the output.
So, we're coming to the end of our deep dive today. Let's try to summarize this for the listener who has to walk into a meeting and make a recommendation to their boss tomorrow morning.
Sure. Here's the bottom line. If you want speed, deep integration with Microsoft Office, and you want to foster a self-service culture where business units can run fast and build their own insights, choose Power BI. It is honestly the best choice for the vast majority of standard corporate environments today.
And what's the summary for Looker?
Choose Looker if you need strict code-based governance, or if you are building embedded analytics into a customer-facing product, or critically, if you are dealing with massive data sets already sitting in Google Cloud that you do not want to move. It is the premier choice for centralized control and developer-led analytics.
Perfect summary. And of course, I have to remind our listeners that we at Kanerika are experts in both of these ecosystems. We are a Microsoft data and AI solutions partner, yes, but we understand the entire technological landscape.
Right. Whether it is Microsoft Fabric, Power BI, Looker, or deploying autonomous AI agents, we have the solution that fits your specific context. We really don't believe in a one-size-fits-all approach.
So if you are ready to modernize your enterprise operations and make a real impact, we strongly encourage you to partner with Kanerika. Let us help you navigate this digital shift.
And before we go, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over.
Let's hear it.
We spend so much time debating Looker versus Power BI. We debate the features, the cost, the processing speed. But in 2026, the tool matters less than the trust.
Tool versus trust. How so?
If your team doesn't actually trust the numbers they're looking at, it doesn't matter how pretty the dashboard is, it doesn't matter how fast it loads in memory, you are really just visualizing confusion. So ask yourself, are you building a tool for reporting, or are you building a culture of truth?
Wow.
Because that is the real digital shift you need to make.
Are you building a tool for reporting or a culture of truth? That is a truly powerful place to end. Thanks for listening to The Digital Shift. We will catch you on the next deep dive.